On the 7th anniversary of our relationship, my fiancé's personal assistant sent me a photo of them at City Hall holding a marriage license. I stared at the picture, then calmly called my fiancée and told her we were done. A few minutes later, her assistant called me, his voice choked with fake tears, begging me not to be angry. "Sir, Chloe and I were just messing around. She's been under so much stress at work. Please try to understand. It's all my fault." Then, in the background, I heard Chloe's voice, dripping with a tenderness she hadn't shown me in years. "Honey, don't cry. You don't have to explain anything to him. He married into my family's money. Where's he going to go without me?" I didn't say a word. I just dropped the engagement ring into the trash, picked up the acceptance letter from my desk, and booked a flight out of the country. After hanging up, I started packing. Chloe didn't come home that night. When she finally stumbled in the next morning, she reeked of alcohol. Seeing me on the couch, she defaulted to her usual tone of command. "Go make me some coffee." I glanced up at her, said nothing, and went back to folding a shirt. When I didn't move, she marched over, her brow furrowed in annoyance. "Jake, are you deaf or something?" Her voice trailed off when she saw the suitcase on the floor. Her expression hardened instantly. "What is this? Are you seriously trying to break up with me?" I didn't even look at her. "Is that something to joke about?" I set my voice flat. Perhaps it was my utter lack of emotion that made her eyes turn to ice. She stormed forward and kicked the suitcase over, its contents spilling onto the floor. She loomed over me, her voice sharp. "Are you done with this tantrum?" I looked up at her, a bitter smile playing on my lips. "My tantrum? You're the one who just got married. What right do you have to say that to me?" Chloe's face filled with impatience. "I already explained it to you, didn't I? We were just playing around. Caleb was diagnosed with cancer. He just wanted to give his parents some peace of mind before the end. You know he's been with me since he graduated," she continued, her voice rising. "He's not just my assistant, he's my friend. What's wrong with me helping him out?" She shot me a look, her tone laced with condescension, as if she were granting me a favor. "Fine. When he's gone, we'll get our own license. Happy now?" I held up a hand, cutting off her ridiculous monologue. "That's enough. You don't need to tell me any of this. You're a married woman now. You should be discussing these things with your husband." Chloe's face went cold again. "When it comes right down to it, you just don't have a compassionate bone in your body. And you don't trust me. If that's the case, I don't see any reason for us to get married, either." Her words were meant as a threat, a warning. But I didn't care anymore. "Fine by me." Chloe froze, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You're serious?" I didn't answer. I just zipped up my suitcase, stood up, and walked toward the door. As I passed her, she grabbed my wrist, her voice turning cruel. "You better think this through, Jake. Without me, you are nothing." I looked into her eyes, the eyes of the woman I had loved for 7 years, and saw nothing but cold, dismissive pride. It hurt. Of course it hurt. I took a deep breath, forced a smile, and pried her fingers off my arm, one by one. "I wish you two the best." With that, I walked out without a backward glance. Just before the door closed, I heard her enraged voice shouting from behind me. "Jake, if you walk out that door, don't even think about coming back. I can't wait to see how a freeloader like you survives without me." 2. A freeloader. The word made me pause. I turned and looked back one last time, not out of regret or nostalgia, but to burn the image of her face, so twisted with hate, so unrecognizable from the girl I once loved, into my memory. As if venting her fury, Chloe marched to the entryway, shot me a final, icy glare, and slammed the door shut. The thunderous boom was a testament to the rage boiling inside her. In the parking garage, I ran into Caleb. I didn't have to ask to know he had just dropped Chloe off. He was probably waiting down here the whole time, ready to swoop in and play the part of the comforting puppy the moment he heard us fighting. He rolled down his window, a smirk on his face as he eyed my suitcase. Well, if it isn't Mr. Miller. What happened? Did Chloe finally kick you to the curb?" I shot him a cold look, not bothering to engage, but he pulled his car forward, blocking my path. "You should have left a long time ago. An old-timer like you doesn't deserve her." I stopped and looked at his smug, punchable face. I laughed. "You're right, I don't. A pathetic leech like you, on the other hand, you two are a perfect match." "You." Caleb's face contorted with rage. I didn't hesitate. I drove my foot into his stomach, doubling him over, and walked away without looking back. You don't have to be polite when you're taking out the trash. That night, I checked into a hotel. Lying in bed, years of memories flooded my mind. Chloe was once my everything, my entire world. But she was the untouchable heiress of the Chun family. And I was just a book-smart kid from a no-name town. We met at NYU, but we moved in different circles. Like every other guy who was captivated by her, I could only admire her from a distance. I followed her schedule, making sure I was in the same lecture halls, the same dining commons, the same library cafes. Eventually, just to see her more, I switched my major to her program at the Stern School of Business. Until today, that was the one decision in my life I never regretted. It was because of that decision that Chloe and I grew closer. My grades were top of the class, and she chose me as her partner for a major group project. I remember being so thrilled I could barely speak. Staring at her perfect face, I stammered for a full minute before finally blurting out, "I do." Chloe burst out laughing, her eyes crinkling at the corners. "You say that like we're getting married." The rest of the group started cheering and whistling. I ducked my head, smiling awkwardly, my heart pounding like I'd just been caught doing something wrong. But she didn't seem to mind and came to my rescue. "Come on, guys, stop it. Jake's a genius. I should be the one who's excited to be on his team." After that day, we started spending more and more time together. When I finally worked up the courage to ask her out, she said yes without a moment's hesitation. We had the perfect college romance, the couple everyone on campus envied. I was at the top of my game, and when I graduated, I had offers from every major firm on Wall Street. My favorite professor even secured a full scholarship for me to get my Ph.D. at Stanford. But for Chloe, I turned them all down. I willingly started at the bottom of her family's company, Chun Corp. And she, to be with me, fought with her family time and time again, pushing back against their pressure to build a small world just for us. Sometimes I wonder how we ended up like this. We both wanted the same thing, a stable future together. But everything changed when Caleb showed up. Caleb was younger than me, had more energy, and knew exactly how to flatter her. I don't know when it happened, but slowly, our conversations shifted. We stopped sharing our dreams and started talking only about the little things Caleb did for her that day. At first, I was angry. I was jealous. But after a few explosive arguments, her casual indifference and her accusations of me overreacting made me realize her heart was already gone. It wasn't just Caleb's presence that bothered me. It was Chloe's complete and utter apathy that left me cold. No matter what I did to try and win her back, all it took was one text from Caleb, and she would drop everything and run to him. She gave all the affection she once had for me to him. For me, the man who had been by her side for 7 years, there was only coldness and complaints. Even so, I proposed. I thought maybe marriage would make her settle down. But that marriage license, with her name next to another man's, ripped away the last threadbare scrap of dignity our relationship had left. Staring out at the city lights, a sense of peace washed over me. They talk about the 7-year itch, how any relationship can grow stale after the passion fades. Maybe Chloe and I were just out of time. 3. The next morning, I went to the office to resign. It was mostly a formality. My authority at the company had been systematically dismantled long ago. When the director of HR received my resignation email, she didn't even bother asking why. The approval came through in minutes. Afterward, she called me, her voice oozing with false sympathy. "Such a shame, Jake. We were all looking forward to celebrating at your wedding." I ignored her snide tone and replied with a smile, "Don't worry. You'll get your celebration soon enough." I hung up and was about to walk out of the building when my phone rang. It was Chloe. "Jake, cut it out," she snapped. "I've rejected your resignation. This has gone far enough. If you don't stop, I'll make sure you leave Chun Corp without a single penny." I laughed coldly. After 7 years together, did she really think I was just some gold digger who could be controlled with money? "Do whatever you want. I don't care." I blocked her number and deleted her contact. The world was instantly quiet. I submitted my resignation again. This time, it was approved without a fight. With my termination letter in hand, I walked out of that building and never looked back. That night, I slept better than I had in years. I didn't have to worry if Chloe was drinking too much at a work dinner or if she was in a bad mood. I didn't have to worry about the company's problems. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a frantic ringing. I answered, and Chloe's furious voice erupted from the speaker. "Jake, what the hell is wrong with you? The signing for the Wallace project is today. You'd better be there." I shook my head to clear the fog of sleep, holding the phone away from my ear to endure her tirade. When she finally paused for breath, I spoke slowly and deliberately. "You must have a short memory, Miss Chun. If I recall correctly, I resigned yesterday, and you approved it. So what does your project have to do with me?" "Jake," she shrieked, her voice a mix of fury and warning. "I'm warning you, don't force my hand. I may have approved your resignation, but the transition paperwork isn't finished. If you don't show up, I have every right to sue you for breach of contract." Her threats had no effect on me. "Don't even try to pull that on me," I said coldly. "If you had actually read my resignation letter, you wouldn't be wasting your breath." With that, I hung up. I never expected to see her again so soon. After news of my resignation got out, several companies I had worked with reached out with job offers. The CEO of one of them, a man named Wallace, personally invited me to lunch. I couldn't politely refuse, so I agreed to meet him. He was generous, booking a table at the Chun Regis, one of the most exclusive hotels in the city. The moment I walked in, I saw a lobby full of familiar faces from my old company. It hit me then. The hotel was owned by the Chun Corporation. Chloe's big project signing was happening right here. As I hesitated, wondering if I should turn around and leave, Caleb materialized out of nowhere. When he saw me, a sneer spread across his face. The meek persona was gone, replaced by an arrogant swagger as he blocked my path. "Look what we have here. If it isn't the washed-up loser. You talked a big game, but now you're back with your tail between your legs, huh?" I gave him a dismissive glance. "Looks like I didn't hit you hard enough last time. You back for more?" Caleb's face fell, and he instinctively took a step back. But seeing my mocking expression, his anger flared. "Don't get cocky, Jake. Chloe's my wife now. You're just a has-been with nothing to your name." I couldn't be bothered with him. I shoved him aside and walked into the hotel. He sputtered behind me, threatening to call security. The commotion drew the attention of everyone in the lobby. I gave a casual wave to my former colleagues and headed for the stairs. Mr. Wallace's reservation was in a private room on the second floor. But someone was determined not to let me get there. "Jake, stop right there." Chloe came clicking up behind me in her heels. She looked me up and down, her expression full of disdain. "This is an important day, and you show up dressed like that. If you're not embarrassed, I am." She turned and ordered her assistant to take me to get a new suit and fix my appearance. I pushed the assistant away and looked at Chloe, amused. "Chloe, how many times do I have to say it? I've resigned. We are done. I'm here to meet someone for lunch, not to play a part in your corporate theater. What I wear, and whether or not it's embarrassing, is none of your business." Chloe was stunned, then instinctively scoffed. "You're meeting someone here. Don't make me laugh. You can't afford a cup of coffee here." To her, a guy like me, the freeloader, had no right to set foot in her family's five-star establishment. I didn't bother to explain. I turned to go upstairs, but another voice stopped me in my tracks. "Jake, my friend, it's been too long." I turned to see a portly, middle-aged man beaming as he walked toward me. It was Mr. Wallace, CEO of Wallace Inc., and the man of the hour. Chloe's big project was a partnership with his company. "Mr. Wallace, good to see you," I said, shaking his hand. After a brief exchange, Mr. Wallace turned to Chloe, who was standing awkwardly to the side. "Ms. Chun, I've always trusted Jake's judgment. I'm ready to sign the contract today, but on one condition. Jake here has to be the one leading the project from your end." His words left everyone, including me and Chloe, speechless. "Mr. Wallace, that's not possible," I said quickly. I was about to say I had resigned, but Chloe grabbed my arm from behind and gave Mr. Wallace a practiced smile. "Of course, Mr. Wallace. That's no problem at all." Then she tightened her grip, her nails digging into my skin. "Jake," she hissed, "you'd better play along." Her tone left no room for argument. I let out a short, sharp laugh and yanked my arm free. As Mr. Wallace and everyone else in the lobby watched in confusion, I raised my voice. "I'm sorry, everyone, but I will not be participating in this project. I want to make it clear that, as of yesterday, I have resigned from Chin Corp. I no longer have any affiliation with this company." I paused and looked directly at Chloe. "Furthermore, Ms. Chun has recently married her assistant. We have no relationship, personal or professional." With that, I turned back to a stunned Mr. Wallace. My apologies, Mr. Wallace. It seems our collaboration will have to wait for another time. Chloe was frozen in place, utterly shocked that I would humiliate her so publicly. Mr. Wallace's smile vanished, his expression turning grim. Ms. Chun, he said, his voice dangerously low. Is what he said true? Chloe was at a loss for words. Caleb scurried over, trying to salvage the situation with a sycophantic grin. Mr. Wallace, please don't mind him. He's just a bitter ex. You're here for Chun Corp's resources. I'll be taking over the project personally. Mr. Wallace glanced at Caleb, then back at Chloe, a look of pure contempt on his face. You want me to do business with this pretty boy? Ms. Chun, you have a strange sense of humor. Mr. Wallace and his team walked out without a second glance. Before he left, he shook my hand and told me to give him a call if I was looking for a new position. I smiled and nodded. The moment they were gone, Chloe's composure shattered. She lunged at me, her hand raised to strike. You bastard, Jake! Do you have any idea how much money you just cost this company? I caught her wrist, my grip like iron, and pushed her away. Chloe, who had been pampered her entire life, had never been treated this way. She stared at me, her eyes burning with a mixture of fury and disbelief. I told you, I said calmly. I resigned. My life has nothing to do with you or your company. Today's disaster was caused by your arrogance. It has nothing to do with me. Done with the drama, I turned and headed upstairs. In the private dining room, my lunch with the other prospective employer went very well. He was enthusiastic, but I knew that any partnership would inevitably bring me back into Chloe's orbit. In the end, I politely declined his generous offer. After dinner, I walked the CEO to his car. When I turned back toward the hotel, I saw Chloe still sitting in a corner of the lobby. Caleb was kneeling beside her, and they seemed to be arguing. It wasn't my business. I started to walk away, but she spotted me. Jake, wait. She ran over, grabbing my sleeve, her face a mask of anguish. Jake, please don't be angry anymore. Come home with me. Okay? We were supposed to get married, remember? Caleb followed her, his face pale. He let out a few weak coughs. Chloe, I don't feel well. Can you take me to the hospital? A flash of conflict crossed Chloe's face, but she ignored him, her eyes fixed on me, full of desperate hope. Don't do this, Jake. I know I was wrong. Caleb, it was just a stupid prank. Caleb looked devastated, his eyes wide with disbelief. I sighed. What are you doing, Chloe? You're a married woman. You should be more careful about what you say. It was as if she hadn't heard me. She clung to my arm, rambling about our past. I finally lost my patience and shook her off. Have you no shame? I still have some. Chloe, you're the one who married another man. I accepted it and walked away. Now you're the one harassing me. What the hell do you want? The world doesn't revolve around you. My cold stare finally made her realize I wasn't playing games. Panic flickered in her eyes. No, Jake, I've only ever loved you. If you want, I'll divorce Caleb right now, she cried, her voice breaking, her eyes welling with tears. This vulnerable, pleading version of her was a stranger to me. I watched her unmoved. There was a time when the slightest frown from her would have sent me into a panic. Now, her tears just annoyed me. She wasn't heartbroken that I was gone. She was furious that she'd lost a servant who came whenever she called. That's enough, Chloe. Stop harassing me. If you really care, maybe you should turn around and check on your poor, newlywed husband. She didn't move, just kept wiping her tears, mumbling over and over, it's not like that, it's not like that. My husband can only be you. It will always be you. I know I was wrong. From now on, I didn't want to hear it. A year ago, her words might have made me lay down my life for her. Now they just made my skin crawl. I pulled my arm free. Save it, I said, my voice flat. You should be more worried about how you're going to explain the breach of contract to your board. The mention of the failed Wallace deal, a massive blow to Chun Corp, made her freeze. Seizing the opportunity, I turned and walked away. I had underestimated Chloe's persistence. Somehow, she found out where I was staying and started camping out in front of my apartment building. I tried to ignore her, but the moment she saw me, she ran up and tried to throw her arms around me. I sidestepped her. What do you want now, Ms. Chun? I asked, my patience worn thin. Chloe looked up, her eyes searching mine. I've been thinking, she said earnestly. My dad can handle the company. I don't need to worry about it. You're the most important person in my life. I said nothing. What was there to say? Taking my silence as encouragement, she crept closer, reaching for my hand. Jake, I sprained my ankle looking for you. I scoffed and nodded toward a figure lurking in the shadows behind her. If you're injured, you should see a doctor. Or maybe tell your actual husband about it. Not me. Her expression faltered. She whipped her head around and saw Caleb standing a short distance away, looking utterly defeated. She snapped at him. I told you to stop following me. Will you just leave me alone? Then she turned back to me, her eyes softening. Jake, I'm going to divorce him. I really am sorry. Can't you feel how much I love you? I looked at her, really looked at her. Her love. Did she even know what that was? I doubted it. The great Chloe Chun, heiress to a fortune, had been worshipped her whole life. She couldn't stand being rejected by me, the boy she once treated like a plaything. This wasn't about love. It was about conquest. And I knew that if I gave in, I'd end up just like Caleb, a boring, discarded toy. Your husband is right there. Aren't you going to comfort him? I said with a sarcastic smile. I mean, you two have a marriage license. This seems a little inappropriate, don't you think? My words hit their mark. Caleb walked up behind Chloe and wrapped his arms around her. Chloe, please, let's just go home. Okay. As Chloe struggled, I delivered the final blow. Chloe, stop this. You made your choice. Now you have to live with the consequences. I don't want to see you again. Perhaps my bluntness finally wounded her pride. The look of desperation on her face vanished, replaced by a deep, simmering anger. She stopped fighting Caleb and melted into his embrace, turning to give me a dark, contemptuous look. Fine, Jake. If you want to be this way, don't blame me for what happens next. Just don't come crawling back to me when you have nothing left. I just shook my head and smiled. Her threats were empty now. The news about Chun Corp's breach of contract with Wallace Inc. exploded across the business world. The story of Chloe's affair with her assistant became common knowledge. Soon, the gossip blogs and tabloids were all over it. As the ex-fiancée, I was suddenly a person of interest. My phone blew up with calls from reporters. Finally, I had to go to the phone store and cancel my number just to get some peace. A few days later, Chloe was back. This time, she brought 2 of her family's bodyguards and blocked the entrance to my building. She said if I didn't go with her, I wasn't going anywhere. Not wanting to cause a scene for my neighbors, I got into her car, my face a thundercloud. Chloe, is this ever going to end? She flinched at my tone, but quickly regained her composure. Jake, I'm here because of my father. He's in the hospital. He wants to see you. Her voice had lost its arrogance, replaced by something that sounded almost like a plea. I didn't feel like arguing anymore, so I just leaned back and closed my eyes. At the hospital, in a private suite, I saw Chloe's father. The man who was once a titan of industry now looked pale and frail, lying in the hospital bed. Dad, Chloe said softly, I brought Jake. Mr. Chin grunted. He opened his eyes, and even weakened by illness, they were sharp and commanding. That was the aura of a man used to being in charge. I couldn't help but notice that even Chloe, so brazen and domineering with me, was meek in his presence, nervously twisting the hem of her shirt, a habit she always had when she was tense. Before, I would have tried to comfort her, to tell her I was there for her. But those days were long gone. I had no reason to tiptoe around them anymore. I strode over to the sofa, sat down, and crossed my legs. Mr. Chun, I said casually, you wanted to see me. His eyes narrowed slightly. You've heard about the company's stock, I assume. I just smiled without answering. His face darkened. I brought you here because I want you and Chloe to get married as soon as possible. That will smooth things over with Wallace Inc. So the deal can proceed, and you'll officially be part of the Chun family. A win-win. His voice was weak, but the disdain and command were unmistakable. From the moment he found out Chloe and I were dating, he had tried to break us up. He was convinced that a poor kid like me was only after his family's fortune. Even now, nothing had changed. It all clicked. Chun Corp wasn't powerful enough to challenge Wallace Inc. After blowing up the deal, they couldn't fix it on their own. But they knew Mr. Wallace respected me, so they decided to use me. From start to finish, I was just a pawn in their game. I've already told her to divorce that Caleb boy, he continued. As soon as you say the word, you can marry my daughter. Chloe looked at me, her eyes shimmering with tears, waiting for me to agree. I met her gaze and said, slowly and clearly, sorry, but I don't want someone else's leftovers. The words had barely left my mouth when Mr. Chin's hand flew across Chloe's face, the crack of the slap echoing in the quiet room. "You shameless brat," he roared, "causing all this trouble for some pretty boy. You act so high and mighty, but you have no idea what you're worth." His words were meant for her, but directed at me. I just laughed, not bothering to react. Chloe held her reddening cheek, her eyes fixed on me, as if hoping I would defend her. I just watched, a cold observer. Then I stood up to leave, seeing his authority so blatantly ignored. Mr. Chun lost his composure. He shot up in bed, pointing a trembling finger at my back and unleashing a torrent of curses. I treated it like a dog barking and kept walking. To my surprise, Chloe left her father and ran after me. "Is there something else, Miss Chun?" I asked, my voice dripping with impatience. "Jake," she choked out. "I divorced Caleb. There's nothing standing between us anymore. Won't you please marry me?" I just stared at her, my silence a clear and final answer. Tears streamed down her face. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You weren't like this before. Is there really no chance for us? You know I love you." "But I don't love you anymore." I cut her off. "I don't believe you." Chloe's voice grew louder, more frantic. "I don't believe you, Jake. You love me so much. Have you forgotten everything?" She was screaming now, a hysterical, wild-eyed woman who bore no resemblance to the cool, elegant CO she presented to the world. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You said it yourself. That was the past. The Chloe I loved is dead." My words struck her like a bolt of lightning. She shook her head desperately, trying to argue, to plead. But I was done. I didn't want to fight with her anymore. I didn't want to hear her apologies. I pushed past her and walked away, leaving her to collapse on the floor in a heap of sobs. After that day, we had no contact. The media, however, was having a field day with the downfall of Chun Corp. To pay the massive penalty for breaching the Wallace contract, Chloe had initiated mass layoffs, trying to cut costs. The move backfired spectacularly, creating a panic within the company and a tidal wave of negative press. If it weren't for the family's deep-rooted connections, the company would have gone under completely. I felt nothing about it. Chloe had made her bed. Meanwhile, Mr. Wallace contacted me again with an even more generous offer. I was tempted, but the thought of inevitably having to deal with the Chun family again was enough to make me decline. Instead, I called my old professor from NYU and asked about pursuing my Ph.D. abroad. He was thrilled. He had always been disappointed when I gave up my opportunities for Chloe. Seeing me get back on track, he offered his full support. "Jake, you're young," he said. "This is your time to build something for yourself." I didn't let him down. After a few months of intense studying and retaking the GREs, I was accepted into a prestigious program in London. To celebrate, my professor organized a reunion with some of my old classmates. And at that reunion, I saw Chloe again. It had only been a few months, but she was almost unrecognizable. It was Chloe who broke the awkward silence. "Long time no see, Jake." She offered a smile, but it was strained and fragile. I nodded, saying nothing. Her gaze fell. "I must look terrible, don't I?" she said with a self-deprecating laugh. "You look tired," I answered honestly. Perhaps it was the simple, calm way we were speaking, something we hadn't done in a long time, that made her eyes well up again. "Jake," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I thought I'd never see you again." She took a step closer, then another, until she was standing right in front of me. I frowned and took a step back, creating a space between us. "We're just talking," I said coolly. "You're standing too close. People might get the wrong idea." My physical and verbal distance clearly stung her. The sadness in her eyes was palpable. I was getting annoyed. Who was this performance for? "If you're done, we should go in. The professor is waiting." I walked past her without another word. Inside, when my old classmates heard I'd been accepted to a top program in London, they all raised their glasses to me. After a few rounds of toasts, I was feeling a light buzz. My professor, not much of a drinker, said his goodbyes early, leaving us younger folks to our own devices. With him gone, the party got louder. At some point, the conversation turned to me. I answered their questions with a smile, but inevitably, someone brought up Chloe and me. In college, we had been a golden couple. My smile vanished. I picked up my glass and stood. When all eyes were on me, I spoke. Ms. Chin comes from a world I could never belong to. I'm grateful for the time we had, and I'm a better person for it. With that, I drained my glass. Most people got the hint and changed the subject, but there's always one or two who live for drama. Fueled by alcohol, they started trying to push Chloe and me into playing some stupid couples game. I put my glass down, making it clear I wasn't participating. Chloe, to her credit, tried to run interference for me, but they were relentless. She looked down, feigning reluctance, and sat down next to me. I moved to stand up, but Chloe, pretending to be drunk, stumbled and fell against me, wrapping her arms around me to catch her balance. The room erupted in cheers. "Kiss her! Kiss her!" A glint of triumph flashed in Chloe's eyes, and she actually leaned in to kiss me. I had reached my limit. I shoved her away hard. "Have you had enough?" My sudden outburst silenced the room. The air grew thick with tension. I ignored everyone else, my eyes locked on Chloe. "Chloe, these people don't know what happened. I could forgive them for being idiots. But you know exactly what you did." Chloe bit her lip, her face a picture of innocence. I raised my voice, making sure everyone could hear. "For those of you who are confused, Chloe and I broke up. The reason we broke up is because she married another man." A wave of shocked gasps and murmurs spread through the crowd. I didn't care. "I've had too much to drink," I announced. "I'm going home." I turned and left, but Chloe impossibly followed me out. I had never imagined she could be this shameless, this persistent. For a moment, I almost missed the cold, arrogant woman she used to be. I stopped and spun around to face her. "Will you just give it up? Don't you realize how pathetic this is?" She stopped, tears streaming down her face. "I know you're leaving the country. I just wanted a chance to see you a few more times." Her words did nothing for me. She didn't cherish our time together when it mattered. Who was this show of devotion for now? Besides, a month ago, Caleb had sent me a picture of them on vacation together, all smiles. Why was she still chasing me? "You have a husband," I said flatly. "You should try acting like it." She shook her head violently. "No, it's completely over between us." The whole story came pouring out. Caleb had faked his illness from the beginning. He was never sick. He just wanted to win her sympathy and pry her away from me. Watching her stand there, sobbing and trembling, I felt not a shred of pity. Caleb was a scumbag, yes, but he couldn't have pulled it off without Chloe's willing participation. It wasn't that he deceived her. It was that she wanted to be deceived. But none of it mattered anymore. The damage was done. Arguing about who was to blame was pointless. "Chloe, let me go. And let yourself go. Can't we just let this end with some dignity?" The next time I saw Chloe was the day of my flight. She wore a mask and sunglasses, following me from a distance, thinking I hadn't noticed. I decided to play along and went into the first-class lounge. She took a seat a few rows behind me. I put on my headphones and waited. Just before boarding, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was Chloe's father. His tone was completely different now, polite, almost pleading. "Jake, please come back. I want to apologize. Can you please give my daughter another chance?" "I know I was wrong about you," he continued, his voice cracking. "I see now what you're capable of, and I see how much you cared for her. Since you left, she's just been empty. As a father, it breaks my heart to see her like this. So I'm begging you, for the sake of what you two used to have, please give her one more chance." I stood up and turned around, looking directly at Chloe. "Mr. Chun," I said into the phone, my voice loud enough for her to hear. "And you too, Chloe. I'm only going to say this one more time, so listen carefully. From this moment on, I have nothing to do with the Chun family. We are strangers." I walked to the gate. As I handed over my boarding pass, I glanced back. Chloe had collapsed onto the floor, her body shaking with sobs. I didn't hesitate. I didn't turn back. Once I was on the plane, looking out at the endless blue sky, a profound calm settled over me. I went through my new phone and deleted every contact remotely related to her. When the plane landed in London, the unfamiliar surroundings gave me a momentary pang of anxiety, but it was quickly replaced by a surge of exhilaration. "Are you Jake?" A young, bright-eyed woman holding a sign with my name on it ran up to me. "I'm Linda. I'm here to pick you up." I shook her offered hand and smiled. "Hi, Linda." Life in London was a whirlwind of challenging coursework and late-night study sessions. The clutter in my mind gradually faded, replaced by academic focus. I had almost forgotten Chloe's name entirely when, late one night, A call came from an international number. "Am I speaking with Mr. Jake Miller?" A formal voice asked. "This is he. I'm the attorney for Ms. Chloe Chun. She passed away today at 3:10 p.m. New York time. Before she passed, she asked me to deliver a message to you." Before I could respond, Linda walked out of the bathroom, toweling her wet hair. "Honey, who's calling so late?" I smiled and gave her a reassuring look. "Don't worry. It's no one important." I turned my attention back to the phone, cutting the lawyer off before he could speak again. "I'm not interested," I said, and hung up. Linda snuggled into my arms, her eyes soft. "Hey, my parents want to meet you. Can you come over for dinner tomorrow?" I smiled and gently tapped the end of her nose. "Of course. It's sold." My mom's voice was giddy. The pen in my hand froze over my calculus homework. "What's sold?" "The house." She looked right at me. "All of it. $600,000, straight into the animal shelter." I closed my textbook. "What did you say?" "Those poor babies are so pitiful. No homes, no food." My mom's face took on a saintly glow. "People have to have compassion. All life is precious." I stared at her, and then I laughed. Just last week, I told her it was senior year, the most critical time for me, and asked if the dozen dogs barking in the house all night could maybe, just maybe, be kept quiet. I couldn't sleep. What did she say again? "Why are you so selfish? They're living beings. Can't you just put up with it?" "That was your house," I said, slinging my backpack over my shoulder. "So, when you're old and need someone to take care of you, I hope you'll be counting on those dogs." Her face changed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means that starting today, you're not my mother anymore." The call came a week after I moved out. "Leo, your mother says you're trying to cut ties with the family?" It was my Uncle Mike. "That's right. How can you be so thoughtless? Do you have any idea how hard it was for your mom to raise you?" I held the phone away from my ear, not stopping the process of making my instant ramen. "Uncle Mike, do you know where I'm living right now?" "It doesn't matter where you're living. You don't just disown your own mother." "I'm in a basement." I killed the heat and carried the small pot over to a moldy wooden desk. 60 square feet. No windows. The whole place reeks of mildew the second you open the door. Uncle Mike paused. "A little hardship is good for a young man. Your mom is doing a good deed." "A good deed?" I slammed the pot on the desk, splashing a few drops of broth. "Uncle Mike, I have final exams in 3 months. I'm trying to get into college." "I know. You're a great student." She sold a house in the good school district for $600,000. I picked up a fork and twirled the clumpy noodles. She used it to buy the best imported kibble for that dog shelter. $100 a bag. She bought 500 bags in one go. My uncle said nothing. Last week I asked her for some grocery money. She said she didn't have any. I laughed, a dry, rasping sound in my throat. She told me, "Every bite you don't eat is another day one of my fur babies gets to live." Well, Uncle Mike, my rent for this basement is $500 a month. I eat twice a day. It's always ramen. Her pack of dogs eats ground sirloin with raw egg yolks. He sighed. "Try to understand your mother. She has a soft heart. She can't stand to see animals suffer." "Oh, I understand," I said. I sipped the broth. It was so salty it tasted bitter. "So now I need her to understand me." "What's that supposed to mean?" "I'm 18 years old. I have no home, no money, and not even a quiet place to sleep." Uncle Mike went quiet. "She wants to be a living saint? I have no problem with that," I said. "But when it's time to collect Social Security, she'd better not come looking for me." "Leo, you can't be like this." I hung up. The phone rang again immediately. It was her. "Leo, your uncle just told me everything." "Uh-huh. Have you no shame? Tattling to your elders." "I was just stating the facts." "What facts?" "The only fact is that you're a selfish, cold-hearted brat." I stared at the peeling, dark paint on the wall. The sound of rushing water gurgled in the pipes overhead. My upstairs neighbor flushing their toilet. "Mom, do you remember what I told you last week?" "What did you say?" "I said my nerves are shot, that the dogs bark all night, and my head is killing me. They have anxiety. They need to feel secure," her voice screeched. "As their big brother. Can't you find it in your heart to be patient with them?" I slapped my fork down on the desk. "Their big brother?" I shot to my feet, sneering at the phone. "You treat your dogs like sons. So what does that make me? You're the one I gave birth to. You're supposed to listen to me." "Fine." I walked to the door and kicked away a roach that was scuttling past. "Since you gave birth to me, Did you bother to ask me before you sold my home out from under me? Silence. You said it was to give them a home, I said with a laugh. But you destroyed mine to do it. Leo, you need to have a bigger love for the world. I do, I said. I'm setting you free to pursue yours. What are you talking about? From this day on, I'm no longer your son. You wouldn't dare. Why wouldn't I? My voice was calm. You chose the dogs. You don't get to have the person, too. I hung up. The phone rang. Her again. I didn't answer. She sent a voice message. I didn't listen. Just used the speech-to-text feature. Think you're big shot now, huh? Don't come crawling back to me when you're starving on the street. I typed back a single sentence. When you were buying steak for the dogs, did it ever occur to you that I might starve? She didn't reply. I sat there in the dark basement, staring at the phone screen. 18 years old. A high school senior. $200 to my name. My own mother had sold our only home to take care of stray dogs. It was so absurd I had to laugh. I laughed until my stomach cramped. But I didn't cry. I opened my backpack and pulled out the dog-eared SAT prep book. I had a practice exam tomorrow. I had to get out of here. I had to get into a college somewhere far away from her and far away from any dogs. I had to rely on myself. 2 weeks after I moved out, my mom showed up. She stood at the entrance to my basement room, pinching her nose, her face a mask of disgust. She was holding the leash of her favorite golden retriever, Buddy. You're living in this pigsty? I am. If you would just apologize and admit you were wrong, I'd let you move into the shelter. She tugged on the leash. The environment is much better there. Fresh air. To live with the dogs? I asked, hanging my freshly washed school uniform on a wire hanger. No, thanks. Her expression soured. Leo, don't be an ungrateful brat. I have 2 hands and 2 feet. I don't need your charity. You. Buddy suddenly started barking wildly at my bed, slinging drool everywhere. I frowned. Shut him up. He just wants to play with you, my mom snapped. Look at that nasty face you're making. You're scaring him. I put down the hanger. Mom, this is my apartment. I pay rent here. I'm your mother. I can come here whenever I want. Fine. I pointed at the door. You've seen it. You can go now. Are you kicking me out? I have to study. Study. That's all you ever think about. She suddenly kicked over the plastic wash basin on the floor. Soapy water splashed everywhere, soaking my shoes. What's the point of all that reading? It's just turning you into a heartless monster. I stared at the puddle on the floor. My fists clenched, then slowly unclenched. The point of studying is so that I don't end up selling my house to raise dogs. She froze for a second, then her face flushed with rage. Are you mocking me? I'm stating a fact. I picked up the basin. You had $600,000. How much of that is left? Her eyes darted away for a moment. What's it to you? It's not my business, I agreed, looking her straight in the eye. But I heard the property the shelter is on isn't zoned for that. That it's an illegal structure. The color drained from her face. Who told you that? Uncle Mike. I let out a cold laugh. If that 600 grand you invested gets torn down by the city, you won't even have a kennel to sleep in. Shut your mouth. She raised her hand to slap me. I caught her wrist. Mom, I'm not a little kid anymore. I flung her hand away. Seeing this, Buddy lunged, trying to bite me. On pure instinct, I kicked out, my foot connecting squarely with the dog's stomach. Yelp! Buddy let out a pained cry and scrambled back behind my mother. You kicked him, she shrieked, lunging at me. You monster! You hit a dog. I took a step back, watching her coldly. It was trying to bite me. Am I not allowed to defend myself? He was just trying to scare you. She cradled the dog's head, tears instantly welling in her eyes. It's okay, baby, don't cry. Big brother is a bad man. Mommy will take care of him. She turned to glare at me, her eyes filled with venom. You mark my words, Leo. This dog is more loyal and more caring than you will ever be. Fine, nodded. Then let him take care of you when you're old. You think I want you to? She stood up, patting the dog's head. I have dozens of fur babies. They're more use to me than you'll ever be. Great. I opened the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. She stomped out, leash in hand, muttering curses under her breath. As she reached the top of the stairs, I could still hear her cooing to the dog. Don't be scared, sweetie. Mommy will go home and cook you some nice boiled chicken breast to make you feel better. I shut the door. The world was finally quiet. I looked at the overturned basin and the dog hair scattered on the floor. Silently, I picked up the broom. This basement was run down and filthy, but at least there were only humans here. No animals. 3. My first term grades came out. I was number 1 in our class. My homeroom teacher, Mr. Davis, called me into his office. "Leo, you're doing great work, but you look exhausted. Is everything okay?" He handed me a carton of milk. "Thanks, sir." I took it, but didn't have the heart to drink it. "Is something going on at home?" Mr. Davis asked, his expression concerned. "The admissions office told me your mother rejected your application for campus housing." My hand trembled. "She rejected it? She said you had a place to live, and that it was a waste of money." Mr. Davis sighed. "And on top of that, your application for the free school lunch program wasn't approved either." "Why not?" "Your mother called the school. She said your family wasn't in financial hardship and didn't need the assistance." I started to laugh. I laughed so hard tears almost came out. Not in financial hardship, right? We had $600,000, except it had all been turned into dog food and kennels. "Understand, Mr. Davis." "Leo, if you're having trouble." "I'm not." I cut him off. "I can handle it myself." I walked out his office and pulled out my phone, dialing that number. "Hello." The background was a cacophony of barking. "Why did you reject my housing application?" "You think living in a dorm is free?" she said, her voice dripping with self-righteousness. "A semester costs over $1,000. Do you know how many vaccines I could buy for the shelter with that? It was covered by my academic scholarship." "A scholarship is still money," she yelled. "If you're earning scholarships, why aren't you bringing that money home?" "To do what with it?" "Feed the dogs." "What's wrong with that? They have more gratitude than you do." I took a deep breath. "Then why did you cancel my free lunch application?" "Our family isn't poor. Why should we take handouts?" "We're not poor," I agreed, looking out the hallway window at the sky. "But all the money is with the dogs. Do I have a single penny to my name?" "You have hands and feet, don't you? Go get a job." "I'm a senior in high school." I finally roared into the phone. "I study until 2 in the morning every night, and you want me to go get a job?" "Well, maybe you should just move into the shelter then," she sneered. "We're short on people to scoop poop. You come work here, and I'll cover your room and board." "You want me to come back and scoop poop for your dogs?" "It's called work. It's called compassion." "I'm not doing it." "Then stop wasting my time." She hung up. I gripped my phone, my knuckles turning white. This was my mother. To save $1,000 in housing fees, to save a few hundred on school lunches, she would cut off my every escape route. She would force me to become a slave to her dogs. I turned and walked back to class. On the way, I passed a trash can and tossed the unopened carton of milk inside. I didn't deserve it. That was for kids who had mothers. I only had myself. That night, I went to a 24-hour convenience store. "Excuse me, are you still hiring for the night stalker position?" The manager looked at my school uniform. "You're in high school? Senior year. Think you can handle the hours?" "I can handle it. $15 an hour, paid out daily. I'll take it." That night, I moved 300 cases of soda. My back felt like it was going to snap, and my hands were raw with blisters. When he handed me the $120 in cash, I bought 2 cheeseburgers. I stood under a streetlight and devoured them. They were delicious, more delicious than any meal I'd ever eaten in that place I used to call home, because I had earned this myself. And from that day on, I understood. Some blood ties are thinner than water. Some family bonds are weaker than paper. If she was going to try to ruin my life, then I was going to live and live well, just to spite her. 4. A month later, my mom was on TV. The local news station was running a Community Heroes segment. She was nominated for the story of selling her home to save stray dogs. Uncle Mike sent me the link. In the video, she was wearing simple, plain clothes, holding a poodle with a bandaged leg, and crying her eyes out. "I may not have a house anymore, but I've gained the love of thousands of family members," she wept. "My son is also very supportive of me. He tells me, 'Mom, you're the most amazing person in the world.'" The reporter was moved to tears. That is the definition of unconditional love. The live chat was flooded with comments. "A true saint. An angel on earth. Mother of the year." I watched the video, a sick feeling churning in my stomach. Supportive? Amazing? How could she say those words with a straight face? The moment I finished watching, my phone rang. "Leo, did you see the news?" Her voice was thick with a pride she couldn't hide. "I saw it. The TV station is coming to the shelter tomorrow to interview me. You need to be there." "For what?" The reporter wants to film a touching mother-son reunion. Her tone was commanding. Wear your school uniform. It makes you look more innocent. And when you're on camera, you just say that you fully support me and that to save money for the dog's medical bills, you volunteered to live in a basement. I laughed out loud. You want me to lie? It's called an artistic touch, she said impatiently. If you cooperate, the station is going to give the shelter a sponsorship grant. I'll even give you $500. $500. In her eyes, my dignity, my future, my integrity. It was all worth $500. I'm not coming. What did you say? I said, I'm not coming. Leo, this is going to be a live broadcast, she said, her voice rising in panic. If you don't show up, or if you say the wrong thing, I'll come to your school and make a scene. I'll tell all your teachers that you're a disrespectful son, that you abuse animals. Threats. Always with the threats. Ever since I was a kid, that was her go-to move whenever I didn't do exactly what she wanted. I used to be afraid. Afraid of the embarrassment, afraid of disappointing my teachers, afraid of the other kids laughing at me. But now, I looked in the mirror at the thin, pale boy with dark circles under his eyes. I had nothing left to lose. Fine, I said into the phone. I'll be there. That's more like it. Her tone softened. 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Don't be late. She hung up. I stared at the link to the video, at all the comments from her blind worshippers, and I realized this was my chance. A chance to rip her saintly mask off for good. The next afternoon, I skipped class and went to the shelter. It was in an old, abandoned warehouse. You could smell the stench from a block away. Dozens of cages were stacked in the yard, filled with hundreds of barking dogs. The cameras were set up. The reporter was holding a microphone, a look of eager anticipation on her face. My mom was wearing that same old jacket she dug out for the first segment, her face free of makeup to make her look more haggard. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. She grabbed my arm and pulled me in front of the camera, already starting to dab at her eyes. This is my son. He's such a good boy, she announced. To support my work, he's never once complained, even while living in a basement and eating ramen noodles. The reporter turned the microphone to me. Young man, your mother is such an inspiration. You must be incredibly proud of her, right? The camera zoomed in on my face. A small red light blinked, indicating we were live. Beside me, my mom was shooting me desperate looks, her fingers secretly pinching my arm, a signal to start reciting my lines. I looked at the camera, then at my mother's phony, pious face, and I smiled. Proud. I spoke clearly and directly into the microphone. Ma'am, would you like to hear the truth? The reporter blinked, taken aback. Of course. The truth is, I said, pointing at the mountain of kibble bags. She used my college fund, my living expenses, and every cent we had to our name to feed these dogs. The set went completely silent. My mother's smile was frozen on her face. She sold our family's only home to buy these dogs, forcing her own son, a high school senior, to move into a moldy basement. I have to work a manual labor job every night just to afford one decent meal a day. I pushed up my sleeve, showing the camera the scrapes and calluses on my arm. This is what she calls a mother's love. This is your community hero. Now, you've lost your mind. My mom screamed, lunging to cover my mouth. Don't listen to him. He's disturbed. He's a delinquent. I shoved her away. I stared straight into the camera, my eyes like ice. If this is what unconditional love looks like, I said, then I would rather be an orphan. The live stream exploded. 5. The set devolved into chaos. The cameraman's hand shook, the lens catching a brief shot of my mother's twisted, snarling face. Cut the feed. Cut it now. I could hear the director shouting in the crew's earpieces. But I knew it was too late. This was a live stream. That last minute had already been broadcast across the city. You ungrateful little monster. I'll kill you. My mother, completely unhinged, grabbed the nearest object, a stainless steel dog bowl, and brought it down on my head. Clang. I didn't flinch. A sharp, searing pain shot through my temple, and a warm liquid trickled down, blurring my vision. Blood, bright red blood, dripped from my cheek onto my school uniform. The crew gasped. The reporter dropped her microphone in shock. Several staff members rushed forward to restrain my mother. Mom, what are you doing? That's her son. I have no son. My mom, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot, looked like a demon. I could raise a dog, and it would at least wag its tail at me. What's the point of raising him? He just exists to ruin my life. I wiped the blood from my face. Staring at the crimson on my hand, I felt an unprecedented sense of release. Did you get that on camera? I asked the stunned cameraman. He nodded numbly. Good. I turned to my mother, who was still kicking and screaming in the arms of two crew members. Consider this payment for the debt of giving birth to me. From now on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. Ignoring the shocked stares, I walked away. Behind me, my mother's hysterical curses followed. Get out, and don't ever come back. You can drop dead in the street for all I care. My money is for the dogs now. You won't see another dime from me. I didn't break my stride. As I stepped through the foul-smelling iron gate, the sunlight outside was so bright it stung my eyes. I went to an urgent care clinic. 3 stitches. The doctor asked how it happened, if I wanted to file a police report. I shook my head. I was attacked by a rabid animal. That night, Twitter went wild. Hashtag community hero canceled. Hashtag mother from hell. Hashtag save Leo. The clip of me saying, I would rather be an orphan, followed by the shot of my blood-streaked face, went viral. Public opinion flipped in an instant. The same people who had called her a living saint were now calling her a monster. This isn't animal rescue. It's child abuse. She sold their house and forced her son into a basement. Is this woman insane? That kid is a high school senior. My heart breaks for him. Uncle Mike called me, his voice strained. Now, are you okay? I'll live. Your mom. She's being destroyed online. People are showing up at the shelter, throwing rotten eggs at the gate. Oh, do you think you could post something? A statement, maybe? Just to explain. I mean, she's still your family. Explain what? I touched the gauze on my forehead, a cold sneer on my face. Explain that the dog bowl flew at my head all by itself, or that the blood on my face was just ketchup. Uncle Mike was speechless. Uncle, I told you when you called me in that basement, I said. She chose the dogs. She doesn't get the person, too. Now, she's just facing the consequences. I hung up the phone, turned it off, and went to sleep. And for the first time in months, I slept soundly. Even in a moldy basement, I felt like the sun was finally rising. 6. After the scandal, my mother became a pariah. The TV station rescinded her nomination and demanded she pay back the funds they'd fronted for promotion. All the corporate sponsors who had pledged donations vanished. The shelter ran out of food, but I didn't have time to worry about any of that. 30 days until final exams. I became a machine that did nothing but study, take practice tests, and study some more. The cut on my head healed, leaving a faint pink scar. Mr. Davis managed to give me a special grant from the school and found me a spot in the dorms, free of charge. I finally moved out of the basement. During the 2 days of my final exams, it rained relentlessly. The school entrance was packed with parents holding umbrellas and bouquets of flowers for their kids. I was just one person in the crowd holding my own umbrella. No flowers, no hugs, no good luck. But my mind was calm. I knew that every word I wrote on those test papers was a step on the ladder to freedom. When the last exam was over, I walked out of the school, and the rain stopped. A rainbow stretched across the sky. I took a long, deep breath. It was over, and it was a new beginning. On the way back to the dorm, I got a call from an unknown number. Is this Leo Miller? This is the Department of Code Enforcement. Yes. What is this about? Your mother's animal shelter is on an improperly zoned lot and is an illegal structure. We've also received numerous noise complaints from neighbors. We are here to demolish the site. She's on the scene, making a disturbance, threatening to lie down in front of the bulldozer and release the dogs on our officers. As her next of kin, we need you to come down here immediately. I stopped walking. Officer, I think you have the wrong number. What? Isn't this the phone for Susan Miller's son? Susan Miller doesn't have a son, I said calmly. She only has a few hundred dog sons. If you can't handle her, I suggest you call animal control or the police. But don't call me. I'm an orphan. I hung up and blocked the number. Then I popped out the SIM card I'd had for years, snapped it in half, and tossed it into a street-side trash can. She had got me that phone plan. Now, even that was gone. I heard later that it was a huge scene. My mom lay down in the mud in front of a bulldozer, screaming and crying. The police eventually had to physically drag her away. The dogs were taken to various city-run shelters. As for the $600,000 shelter she had built, it was reduced to a pile of rubble, just like her so-called dream of unconditional love. Smashed to pieces. 7. My test scores came back. I got a 1550 on my SATs. Top of my class. A full ride to Stanford was basically guaranteed. Mr. Davis was so excited he could barely speak, his eyes red with pride. "You did it, son. I knew you could do it." I smiled. It was the first genuine smile that had crossed my face in 6 months. I accepted the offer from Stanford. The farther away from Boston, the better. The day my acceptance letter arrived, I went back to my old neighborhood. Not for nostalgia, but to pick up a photo album I'd left with a neighbor. It was full of pictures from when I was a kid, back when my dad was still alive. As I approached my old building, I saw a disheveled woman digging through a dumpster. She was wearing that same filthy jacket, so stained you couldn't tell its original color. One of her plastic flip-flops was broken. In her hand, she held half a stale bagel. A small, limping poodle hovered at her feet. It was her. In just 3 months, she had aged 10 years. Her hair was streaked with gray, her eyes vacant and dull. She saw me and froze. The bagel dropped from her hand. The poodle darted forward and snatched it. "El Leo," she stammered, her voice hoarse with disbelief. I said nothing, just stared at her coldly. "You're finished with your exams?" She nervously wrung her hands, which were caked in grime. "How did you do?" "Fine. That's good, that's good." She forced a placating smile. Mom doesn't have anywhere to go now. The shelter was torn down, and the money's all gone. I'm living under a bridge. The dog is starving." Her eyes fell on the new smartphone in my hand, paid for with my own earnings, and a flash of greed crossed her face. Could you lend Mom some money?" "Not much. Just a couple $1,000s. I just want to rent a small room, get the dog settled." I looked at her, at this woman who had once arrogantly declared that her money is for the dogs. Now she was begging me like a common panhandler. "Lend you money?" I laughed. "Didn't you say the dogs were more loyal than me? Didn't you say you were counting on them to take care of you in your old age? What happened? Didn't they pay up?" Her face went pale. "Leo, Mom knows she was wrong. I wasn't thinking clearly back then. I was possessed. You're my son, my own flesh and blood. You can't just watch me starve to death, can you?" She started to reach for my hand. I took a step back, avoiding her touch. She was filthy. "Susan," I said, using her first name, "do you remember what you said to me when my stomach was aching from hunger and I begged you for grocery money? You said, 'Every bite you don't eat is another day one of my fur babies gets to live.'" I pulled $200 bills from my wallet. My travel money. Right in front of her, I tossed the cash into the dumpster she'd been rummaging through. "Go get it," I said, "just like you told me to go scrounge for scraps." She stood there, stunned. She looked from the red and blue bills in the trash back to my face, her eyes filling with despair. "Now, you'll get what's coming to you," she suddenly shrieked, scrambling toward the dumpster to grab the cash. "You treat your own mother like this. God will strike you down." I ignored her. I turned and walked away. Behind me, I could hear her screaming as she fought with stray cats over the dumpster's contents, the sound punctuated by the poodle's frantic yapping. What's coming to me? If there's any justice in the world, then this, right now, is what's coming to you. 8. For 4 years of college, I never once went back to Boston. Between scholarships and part-time jobs, I not only supported myself but also managed to save a decent amount of money. I landed a great internship at a major tech company in Silicon Valley. After graduation, they hired me full-time with a starting salary of $200,000 a year. I bought a car and rented a nice apartment in Palo Alto. My life was on track. News about that woman would occasionally trickle in from Uncle Mike. Heard she had a breakdown. Spent her days collecting trash off the street and feeding it to whatever stray dogs would follow her. The dogs were always changing, but she just got thinner and thinner until she looked like a skeleton. Heard she'd been bitten several times. With no money for rabies shots, she would cauterize the wounds with a lighter. Heard she often hung around the local high school, grabbing boys in school uniforms and calling them Leo. Uncle Mike begged me to go back and see her. I told him I was busy, and I was busy making money, busy building a life, busy scrubbing away every trace of the pathetic, helpless boy I used to be. Until the day I got a call from the Boston Police Department. "Are you Leo Miller, son of Susan Miller?" "I am. Your mother has been detained for assault and battery." What happened? She got into a fight over a bag of dog food and smashed a grocery store clerk over the head with a can. The victim is pressing charges and seeking damages. We need you to come down and deal with this. I was silent for a long time. I'm not coming. Sir, this is your mother we're talking about. I know. My voice was steady. Let the courts handle it. If she needs to pay, she pays. She has no money. Then she can do the time. The officer, probably unaccustomed to such a cold-blooded response from a family member, hung up in frustration. Later, I heard that due to a psychiatric evaluation, she was found not criminally responsible and was committed to a state mental hospital. Uncle Mike called me, crying, "Leo, how could you be so cruel? A state hospital. She'll never get out of there." "It's the best place for her," I said, looking out my window at the sprawling, glittering lights of the Bay Area. "At least she'll have food to eat and a bed to sleep in. It's better than living under a bridge." I swirled the wine in my glass. "And besides," I added, "there are no dogs there. You could call it the last act of filial piety I have to offer." 9. Another 3 years went by. I bought a condo in San Jose. It wasn't huge, but it was mine, and I'd saved up for the down payment all by myself. The day I closed on it, I stood in the empty living room, watching the sunlight stream through the floor-to-ceiling windows. For a brief moment, I thought about that dark, damp basement from 8 years ago. The overturned wash basin. The boy with the bloody face. It was all in the past. The doorbell rang. It was a delivery. The new robotic vacuum I'd ordered. As I was opening the box, my phone buzzed. It was a picture message from an unknown number. The photo showed a skeletal old woman sitting behind the steel mesh of a hospital common room window. She was clutching a pillow to her chest. Her eyes were vacant, and drool trickled from the corner of her mouth. The sender, an orderly from the hospital, sent a follow-up voice memo. "Mr. Miller, your mother doesn't have much time left. She had a moment of clarity a couple of days ago and kept asking for you. She said she regrets everything. She said she wants to see you one last time." I stared at the photo. The person in it was completely unrecognizable. The woman who had once been willing to fight the world and abandon her son for the sake of her dogs was now nothing but an empty shell. Regret? People probably always feel regret when they're about to die. But how much of that regret was for the family she'd broken? And how much was just fear of dying alone? I didn't know, and I didn't want to know. I texted back a single line, "No thank you." And then I added another, "Tell her I'm doing very well." That should be enough for her. I put down the phone and turned on the new vacuum. The small, round robot began to hum softly as it navigated the clean, polished floors. My home was spotless. No dog hair, no estranjes smells, just the scent of sunshine. 10. A week later, she was gone. Uncle Mike said her passing was difficult. In her final moments, she had stared intently at the door, her eyes wide open. She did not die in peace. I wired $50,000 to him to handle the arrangements. A small plot, cremation, burial. Just see that the process was completed. I didn't go back for the funeral. The day she was buried, a rare snow began to fall in the Bay Area. I stood at the window of my office, watching the flakes drift down. A colleague, Kevin, came over and handed me a cup of coffee. "Hey, Leo, what are you looking at?" "The snow. It's really coming down. A good sign for the new year, they say." "Yeah." I took a sip of coffee. It was bitter with a faintly sweet aftertaste. "Big snowstorm back on the East Coast, too, I hear. You ever miss home?" "Do I miss home?" The home that was sold, filled only with the sound of barking? The damp, dark basement that smelled only of ramen? No, those places weren't my home. They were my hell. This right here is my home now. No. I turned away from the window, back toward the bright, bustling office, back toward my colleagues hard at work. My eyes landed on the framed photo on my desk of me and my girlfriend. We were both smiling, genuinely happy. Our new condo was in the background. It was warm there, and dry, and quiet. No dogs allowed. "I have a home," I said. Kevin looked at me for a second, then smiled. "Right. Of course. You're living the dream, man." Living the dream? Maybe so. It took me 8 years to drag myself out of the mud, to wash off the stains and heal the scars. As for the woman who gave me life and then nearly destroyed it, she was a ghost, a blurry, dark spot in a snowstorm, completely and utterly erased from my world. My phone vibrated. A final text from Uncle Mike. "It's all taken care of. Next to her urn, we placed her favorite photo of her and the dogs. I stared at the screen, and I laughed. Perfect. She loved dogs more than life itself. Now she would have them with her in death. It was, in its own twisted way, the happy ending she always wanted. I deleted the message. Then I blocked my uncle's number, severing the last thread connecting me to that small city and the life I'd left behind. The snow stopped. The sun broke through the clouds, its rays spilling warmly onto my face. I stretched and sat back down at my desk. Time to get to work. The sound of my fingers on the keyboard was crisp and clear. It was the sound of me composing a new piece of music. A symphony for one.